Sigmund Freud, the discoverer of the unconscious, even Freud, who was the person who taught us that the bulk of our cognition is unconscious. What we rediscovered 100 years later in cognitive science, that the bulk of our cognition is unconscious. Even he said, it's surely of the essence of an emotion that we should be aware of it, that it should become known to consciousness. Thus, the possibility of the attribute of unconsciousness would be completely excluded as far as emotions, feelings, and affects are concerned. Now, I've emphasized the word feelings because the words affect and emotion mean different things to different people. Some people claim you can have unconscious emotions. They don't agree with Freud. So I want to be clear that I'm talking about this thing, feeling. You cannot have a feeling that you do not feel. And this is not just a linguistic point. You know, as I've just showed you, the brainstem mechanisms that generate raw feeling, they generate consciousness itself. But I say again, this thing that I'm calling feeling cannot be other than felt. If you don't feel it, it isn't a feeling. And what I'm saying, therefore, is that unlike cortex, the processes of which, the information processing of which is not intrinsically conscious, shouldn't we be looking to the brain stem, the processes of which are intrinsically conscious, in fact, are the source of all consciousness. If we want to understand the function of consciousness, then surely we need to understand the function of feeling. David Chalmers, one more time, he says, this is not to say that experience has no function, perhaps it'll turn out to play an important cognitive role, etc. And he ends up saying, there's no cognitive function such that we can say in advance that explanation of that function will automatically explain experience. This is, you can see, a reiteration of what I said to you earlier. But please note, it's the word cognitive. If you change the word cognitive to affective, would he ever even have said this? There is no affective function such that we can say in advance that explanation of that function will automatically explain experience. I'm saying in advance that an explanation of the function of feeling will automatically explain why it feels like something, because that is the function of feeling. I hope you can see why this is an important red thread in the argument of my book. If we're wanting to understand consciousness, we should be focusing on its most basic form, the form which is intrinsically conscious, that is to say feeling, because feeling has to be felt. Unlike vision, unlike hearing, unlike memory, unlike all forms of cognition, for the most part, they're unconscious, but feelings are always conscious, and they are prerequisite for the higher forms of consciousness. So if we understand the function of feeling, then we understand the function of consciousness. That's where we should be looking. I say again, there is every possibility that if you can explain the function of feeling, then you'll know why you feel it. So what is the function of feeling? Well, it's an extended form of homeostasis. Homeostasis, as many of you might know, is the basic mechanism that keeps us alive. Living organisms, unlike inorganic matter, don't dissipate. They don't just, if the ambient temperature is 10 degrees, then we just sort of become 10 degrees ourselves. If we did, we would die. So we can't dissipate. We can't equalize with our environments. We can't allow ourselves to obey the second law of thermodynamics, which states that in any natural process, entropy will always increase. Homeostasis resists entropy. We say, no, I can't equalize. I have to maintain a particular temperature range. I have to stay between 36.5 and 37.5 degrees Celsius. And if I deviate from that, it's a problem. It's a demand for work. And I have to perform work to get myself back into the temperature range that is viable for life. And I speak here of temperature range. This applies across a wide range of physiological parameters. So you have, blood glucose levels, blood oxygen levels, hydration levels, sodium levels, etc., that you have to remain within, otherwise you die. And you note the word prediction here. There are algorithms built into our brains which say, if you're getting too hot, that's a problem. So you got to do something. And what must you do? The algorithm says, well, sweat. That'll cool you down. Pant. That'll cool you down. That's the work that you have to do to get yourself back into your viable range. So that's how homeostasis works. And I said, feeling is an extended form of homeostasis. And that extended form is that when you deviate from your expected states, from your viable states, it feels bad. The value system that underpins all life is that it is bad to die and good to survive. So if you're moving in the direction of death, of a physiological state which is incompatible with life, it feels bad. That is the function of unpleasure. That is the meaning of unpleasant feelings. It means this is bad for me. And conversely, performing the work that gets you back into your viable state feels pleasurable. And this is how you know that you're heading in the right direction. Why is this important? I told you that you have to have predictions here, algorithms built into the system that tell the system what to do. Demand for work, I know what I got to do, got to pant, got to perspire. That's the work, gets me back to my required temperature range. But the enormous adaptive advantage provided by feeling is that if you are in a situation for which you do not have a predetermined prediction, for which there is not a phenotypic algorithm built into your brain, then the feeling tells you here and now whether you're heading in the right direction or wrong. Let me give you an example. You're in a respiratory control is an automatic process. You don't need to be aware of your need for oxygen in order to breathe. It just happens automatically. But if you're in a building that's on fire and carbon dioxide is filling the air, then suddenly respiratory control becomes conscious and you feel this demand for work in the form of an acutely unpleasant state of mind called air hunger or suffocation alarm. Now you're in a situation you've never been in before. You can't possibly predict. You've never been in a burning building, let alone this particular one. And you can't possibly predict what to do. So that's a state of uncertainty with no predetermined predictions. And the way in which you solve that problem is to feel your way through it. So if I go this way and my air hunger gets worse, that's bad. It feels bad. That means it's bad. If I go the other way and my air hunger reduces, that's good. That means I must go that way. So the oxygenation in the air is felt without there being any preordained solution to this particular problem. You feel your way through it. So feeling tells you how you're doing within this basic biological frame of values, scale of values, which is that it's good to survive and bad to die. And you feel what is increasing and decreasing your chances, your probabilistic chances of surviving by feeling the feelings. So that enables you to make choices. And this too, I cannot emphasize enough. Choices have to be grounded in a value system. Something has to be better and something has to be worse. Otherwise, you have no basis for making a choice. And feelings provide the value system which enables choice in unpredicted, novel situations. So you decide which way to go on the basis of what feels good and what feels bad without any cognitive knowledge as to what that drives the cognition. And you feel your way into your cognition so that what you're perceiving and what you're thinking, flavored, colored, driven by the feeling, determines which choices you make. That is the function of feeling. That is what feeling adds to basic automatized homeostasis. Now, I've just identified one of the two most essential properties of affect, that is valence. It feels good or it feels bad. But I must add that it also has a categorical quality. Each affect feels, so air hunger feels different from sleepiness, feels different from the need to urinate, feels different from fear, feels different from separation distress, feels different from thirst. Each of these has a flavor, a categorical quality of their own, because you need to know what need is being met or not being met. So the color coding or flavoring, the qualification of these different affective needs is why consciousness has quality. So consciousness in its basic form is inherently valuative and it's inherently qualitative. And it does something. What does it do? It enables you to survive in unpredicted situations, which is an enormous adaptive advantage over creatures who do not have this capacity. So we're coming, I notice I really have to end earlier than I would have liked, but we're coming to the crux of the matter, which is that this is the function of feeling. So remember the question I was asking, why and how is there something it's like to be an organism, something it's like for an organism? Well, affect, feeling, explains why it's something, why it has to feel like something. The feeling, the quality of it and the category of it is its very essence. It's what it does is to bring to the awareness of the organism, for the organism, how it's doing in terms of its literal potential to exist, to continue existing, its most basic design principle, the design principle that homeostasis embodies. And this extended form of homeostasis, bringing to the level of awareness by the organism of its state as it's navigating uncertain environments, is the function of consciousness in its most basic form. And going back to Chalmers's claim that if you explain the function, it doesn't explain why it feels like something, I'm saying that doesn't apply in the case of affect. And affect is generated in the brainstem, which is the source of all consciousness. All consciousness is contingent or dependent upon brainstem consciousness. Now, I'm going to end here so that there's time for questions. I just want to let you know that in my book, I then go on, based on work I did with Carl Friston, to explain how that mechanism works mechanistically. Homeostasis is not complicated. It can be reduced to laws. And if affect, feeling, is an extended form of homeostasis, it too can be reduced to laws. These laws are explicated in the book. And it explains how feeling governs, how voluntary action and learning from experience works in the brain. I was going to tell you this one last case, but I don't have time. So I'll just flick through and tell you, read my book, please. This is a complicated topic. I can't begin to do it justice in a short talk like this. So why is the performance of these functions accompanied by experience? Why doesn't all this information processing go on in the dark, free of any inner feel? I hope you can see why I believe that when it comes to feelings, they can't go on in the dark. They can't go on without any inner feel. Their very function, their very causal contribution within the physical economy, bodily economy of the living organism is to feel. And the feeling is what has the functional causal consequences that Chalmers felt was so badly missing when it comes to perception and cognition, although he didn't realize that his argument applied only to perception and cognition.